Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well and having a great week so far. So starting off here, as you can see, here is Category 2 Hurricane Erin as of the latest 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time update. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down Erin and continuing to track Erin and see the potential impacts for some of the places like the Outer Banks, really along the East Coast for that matter, but especially the Outer Banks and up into the Northeast and even into potentially Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. But I do believe that the Outer Banks and Newfoundland could see the greatest impacts going forward here with Erin. So let's go ahead and get started with our update today. So as you can see, this is the latest satellite imagery for Erin, and so the storm did not look too healthy earlier today. This was a few hours ago actually. And so this morning, or earlier really this morning, the storm did not look too healthy and still does not look all that impressive for a Category 2 hurricane. But as you can see here, we have a very large eastern band of clouds, a large area of cirrus clouds way up into the atmosphere here. But we also have some high cloud tops in the middle where our kind of central low pressure is, our circulation there, and really it's not started to pop off until recently. So I do believe we could see a little bit more strengthening over the next maybe day or two, maybe day and a half, but I don't believe we're going to see anything over a Category 3 return, but that's just my opinion here. So once again, this is the latest satellite here, and as you can see on the northwestern side of this storm, it is kind of struggling. There's not a lot of clouds. There might be a few kind of beginning to form, but as these cold cloud tops begin to rise, you'll probably see some more clouds begin to form kind of on the northwestern side. But also dry air is starting to kind of get pretty close and even into the circulation a little bit right here, if you can see where my cursor is, but especially into parts of the Bahamas, there are plenty of dry air and well north of it, but to the north, there's nothing really fitting into the storm besides just right here near the circulation. But that is the latest on the satellite. So taking a look at Zoom Earth here, this is a great tool to use for tracking tropical cyclones. And so as you can see, Erin is once again a Category 2 105 mile per hour storm. So it has weakened over the past couple days here, really about a day and a half. But around 11 a.m. this morning, it had a 961 millibar low pressure, and it has strengthened just a little bit, and that low pressure has dropped down to a 958 millibar storm. So it once again has strengthened just slightly, but here is the cone right here. This is the latest 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time update. And so once again, the cone shows where this storm could potentially go. In the center of the cone is where the storm may end up tracking from the National Hurricane Center, but still this storm could wiggle to the west or east of that main line you see in there in the middle of that. So just keep that in mind, and impacts will be well outside of the cone as well. But taking a look here into eastern North Carolina and even eastern Virginia, southeastern Virginia, so we have tropical storm warnings up for the Outer Banks, and so this extends all the way down to Morehead City, and then we also have a tropical storm watch even into southeastern Virginia and extreme northeastern North Carolina, the northeast coastline of North Carolina there. So that is the latest warnings we have on that, and honestly, there is definitely a potential for tropical storm watches to be added up, maybe even into southeast Massachusetts, or even potentially along some of these areas, maybe even into New Jersey, but I'm not too sure about some of those areas. But I'm more confident on some sort of maybe wind advisory or anything like that being issued to some areas into southeast Massachusetts. So that's the latest on those areas. But also, I do believe that areas like southeast Newfoundland could see some pretty strong winds, and we'll look at the winds a little bit more later on into the video. But once again, that's the latest from Zoom Earth, the latest 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time update. So what about the potential winds and wind gusts? So right here we're looking at the wind accumulations from the European weather model here. And so this goes from today 5 a.m. all the way through this upcoming Sunday, the 24th. So if we take a look here first at the Bahamas, and so this is already kind of an ongoing situation, but still some of these areas into the eastern Bahamas could see potentially 30, even 40 mile per hour wind gusts throughout the next really day, I believe, because this storm is still going to continue to drift a little farther westward, and that will impact those areas as well. But moving on up into the southeast U.S., especially into the Carolinas here. So South Carolina maybe could see 20, maybe at least a 20, almost 30 mile per hour wind gusts, but especially into eastern North Carolina and the Outer Banks, some of these areas could see even 50 and 60 mile per hour wind gusts. So that will be a interesting situation for sure, because not only will there be pretty strong winds in some of these areas, you're going to have some high waves moving into these areas as well, and just storm surge in general is going to push all that water into some of the low-lying areas, and that could definitely create some hazardous situations. And that's already why some of these areas into the Outer Banks have evacuation orders underway. But continuing up into the mid-Atlantic here, even into Maryland, the coastal areas of Maryland, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gust, even into New Jersey, coastal areas of New Jersey, 40, even 50 mile per hour wind gusts in some areas, and even into New York as well, 40, 30 mile per hour wind gusts, and Rhode Island as well, and then Massachusetts as well, southeastern Massachusetts, 40, maybe isolated 50 mile per hour wind gusts possible in some of those areas. So just keep an eye out as this storm continues to move kind of west a little bit and northward as it makes this track through here, because the wind field is going to expand quite a bit, and so that's why these areas are going to see still some winds from this storm. Even though the eye of the storm will be well out to sea, the wind field will expand quite a bit. But moving on to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, some of these areas could see 30, even 40 mile per hour wind gust along the coastal areas. And then getting into Newfoundland as well, southeastern and really southern Newfoundland could see 50, and I would not be surprised to see 60 mile per hour wind gusts here as well as we get further kind of towards late this week into this weekend as the storm gets closer to those areas. So that's the latest on the wind accumulations, and still just continue to watch this storm and see how it moves, especially with the track of this as it moves once again further up northward. So we'll continue to watch that over the next several days. So let's look at timing and some of the weather models here. I know I didn't mention timing too much with the wind section of the video. I do apologize for that, but we're going to get more into timing with the GFS European models here. So starting off with the GFS weather model, you can see the storm down here. And so the GFS wants to kind of strengthen this a little bit more as it gets further off the coast of the Carolinas, and it wants to deepen it down into a 945, 944 millibar low pressure. But honestly, I would not pay too much attention to that because the models have been struggling recently with the strength of this storm. Really, most of the models didn't really anticipate this weakening like it has right here, but they also didn't anticipate it strengthening like it did to the Category 5 status several days ago. Not several, but a few days ago. So really, once again, don't pay too much attention to the intensity of the storm, but still, nonetheless, looking here, outer rain bands from the storm could impact portions of the coastal Carolinas, mainly coastal North Carolina. But as it gets further to the north by Wednesday night into Thursday morning, some of the rain bands could even impact even Delaware, New Jersey, even maybe potentially southern New England, potentially Thursday morning if there is a rain band, rain shield kind of north of this, but only for a short period of time. Then as we get to Thursday night into Friday morning, it makes that turn out to sea, and Nova Scotia, and then Newfoundland probably won't see the direct rain bands from this, but I think potentially portions of Newfoundland could see maybe some rain from this. So we'll get to those areas in just a moment, and now we'll look at the European weather model and see what it has to show as well. And so looking here on the European, pretty much same track. It wants to deepen this low pressure quite a bit more. We'll go to the latest run here, and it still wants to strengthen the storm quite a bit to a category 4, almost category 5 status. And then it gets it once again pretty close to eastern North Carolina, and still some of those areas could see rain from that up along the mid-Atlantic and even into southern New England once again. I do think the period that may need to be watched for the outer rain bands in southern New England would be Thursday morning. But it still continues this on out here, still has it a strong low pressure and does not give any rain to Nova Scotia. And so now we'll take a look at Newfoundland and kind of Nova Scotia as well again. So taking a look at the European model still, the European model wants to get some of this rain into southeastern Newfoundland, but I don't think it'll linger around for too long, maybe starting as early as late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and lasting until maybe Sunday afternoon or evening. So that'll be the time frame to watch for that. Looking at the GFS as well. Speed this up along here, continue that on. Oops, I went a little far out there, apologize for that. But the GFS actually does not show really any rain getting into Newfoundland. Maybe a chance early Saturday, but the timing here is a little bit different. Yeah, that the timing is actually quite a bit different. So the GFS wants to get this really around Newfoundland by midday Saturday, but the European wants to show it near Nova Scotia by midday Saturday. So timing on this will continue to change, and even if you look at the past runs prior to these, you can tell the timing and placement of the storm is continuing to shift. So once again, just continue to watch this storm, and I do think the path will change more and more over the next several days here, but the general idea of it recurving out to sea is still there, and I do believe that will happen. Just small ticks back and forth will probably continue to happen between the models, but that's kind of the latest update on that as far as placement goes on Erin. So what do we need to watch out for after Erin? So we actually have 2 areas to watch now, unfortunately. So there's Erin right there. Once again, the latest 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time update from the National Hurricane Center. And so first looking at this area, we'll look at the orange area. So this area into kind of near the Leeward Islands, that area, but this area is kind of into the central Atlantic, but it has a 60% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone within the next 7 days and a 10% chance within the next 2 days. So that is the area we've kind of been watching for a few days now, and the potential for this to develop into something has increased a little bit over the past couple of days. And we'll get to some of the models in just one moment to show them and see how they want to play this area out. But also we have the newest area, which is actually called Invest 99L now, and I'm kind of surprised this area didn't get a official name yet, but I think that'll happen within the next couple of days. But going back to this area here, it has a 30% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone within the next 7 days, and a 30% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone within the next 2 days. So once again, that's just off the west coast of Africa, and that is the latest area, Invest 99L. So what do the models show for these 2 areas? So once again, there's Hurricane Erin. We'll not really talk about that right now, or we're pretty much done actually talking about that. But It's kind of hard to see on your screen, but this is the moisture on the GFS for the latest area, that area with the 60% chance of developing into anything. So there's our area right there, that moisture north of the kind of north of the Leeward Islands, north of the Greater Antilles as well. And the GFS, the latest GFS, does not have this developing into really anything. We go ahead and play out this run, and you don't really see anything else on your screen until way out into some time, not this weekend, but next weekend. But we're not going to pay attention to that because it's just too far out. So that's the GFS. The European model, this is the 06Z run from this model, and so we'll look at the OOZ in just a moment because it goes out a little further. But there's our area right there. You can see a little bit of moisture north of the Leeward Islands, and it never really gets anything going here. It just has this moisture hanging around, and I think it finally gets picked up by troughing and moves it on out to sea for the most part, but still has a little moisture left over. So that's the latest European. Look at the OOZ from last night. This goes out further, by the way, and once again does not do anything with that and gets it picked up by a trough and puts it way out to sea. Now finally, what does the European AI model show? We'll look at the 12Z run here, continue that on. There is Erin, and it gets this moisture same area as the European operational model. Finally gets a low pressure developed, but it does not develop into anything significant, probably because of the lack of warm ocean waters way out into this area. There's plenty of warm waters south of that area, but does not get it really into anything significant. So that's a good thing for sure. So now we'll look more into the tropical Atlantic and see what this other area. So here's our 60% area, and there is our 30% area, Invest 99L. It gets Invest 99L and it continues it on westward until it finally gets way over here south of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And it gets that way out, and we'll go to the other picture in just a moment. But we go to the European weather model as well, the operational one, and it's kind of hard to tell right here, but there's our general area of the moisture, and there's the other one up here, but Invest 99L is sort of down here, and it really doesn't get it into anything either. We go back here and look at the GFS one more time for the tropical Atlantic. There's our 60% area, and here, kind of down here, is our Invest 99L. Gets that out forward and still does the same thing as the operational European weather model and does not really get anything developed out of that. We look at the Western Atlantic now for Invest 99L, and it gets just heck of a lot of moisture here into the Caribbean and Lesser Antilles, Greater Antilles, around those areas, but just in the Caribbean as a whole, it wants to get quite a bit of moisture in here on the GFS model. With the European AI model as well, still wants to show some of that moisture in there by sometime next week from Invest 99L. So that's the latest on the operational weather models. Now if we take a look at the ensemble models here, look at the 0Z run, and so we're going to look at ensemble member or low pressures here. And so I know I described this before in a couple of other videos, but basically here with the ensembles, what it does is it kind of creates one model for us to look at, and it puts in several different members from the EPS ensembles, which is the European. And so it puts in different members here, and each member shows kind of their own little run, you could call it, and it shows us maybe a general idea of an area that could potentially see development of some sort of maybe tropical cyclone or whatnot. So each of these numbers are a different member, and so we continue this forward here into next week, next Monday. It wants to show our disturbance north of the Leeward Islands getting going into maybe a weak storm, and it pretty much gets all those members out to sea. That's the 0 OOZ EPS ensemble there for that. We get this going even further to look at our other Invest and it never shows really anything for Invest 99L. So that's a good thing for sure. We go to the GEFS ensemble, which is just the GFS ensemble. So we get this going as well, and as you can see, same time frame. Next Monday, you have multiple members out here showing very few members showing any sort of tropical cyclone. So we have a few members getting into maybe the tropical storm threshold, but most of these stay around 1,000 or just under 1,000 millibars. So basically all of these just show it pretty much going out to sea, but still we need to continue to watch this area and see how this disturbance may play out. We go forward here in the next week, Tuesday going to Wednesday, you have a few members, only 2 or 3 members showing anything else for Invest 99L, but really all we can do right now is just kind of wait this out and see how the models continue to show the invest over the next several days. And so we have hurricane models right here for Invest 99L. I'm going to look at one of these just for a moment for, once again, the Invest 99L. And so we'll look at the HAFS-A model and see how it plays this out. So like the GFS and European weather model, the latest HAFS-A model doesn't really get anything going out of this. As we get further into the week, we look at the HAFS-B. Actually, we'll look at the HMON model. Invest 99L, once again, does not get anything really going out of this, but even though it doesn't get anything developed out of Invest 99L, we still need to watch it as it makes its way potentially towards the Lesser Antilles. If it gets into the Caribbean and tries to strengthen there, that's going to be bad news, but still we're way far out from telling exactly what this is going to do, but still it needs to be watched over the next week and a half for sure. But that'll pretty much be it for today's update. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up right here. I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I hope y'all continue to stay safe if you're going to be impacted by Hurricane Erin in any way. But that'll be it for today's update, and I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's week.